What's up, everybody, and welcome to the channel. I have a video for any of you who either haven't played eFootball yet or haven't taken the time to really dive into it. There are so many different things that I am learning and that I can explain as I figure them out along the way, but I also wanted to do just an overview so you didn't just jump in and think, okay, I jump in, I play, I leave. I jump in, I play, I leave. No, there is so much more to it, but especially if you're coming from just UFL and not FC, you are used to literally having nothing to do in the menus. Really, it's just this quick little challenge check, and then maybe if you have packs or buy packs or did the CR17 pass, you might get something, but it's very, very stale, right? There's little to no rewards for any type of competition stuff, whereas eFootball is the polar opposite, right? Not only are you getting things just for logging in, right? In every single game, you are getting different rewards, objectives that are completed, stuff like that. But on top of that, in the game itself, there's so many intricacies that go along with building your team, right? And that's the main thing I wanted to go into. And why I like this so much is because eFootball went their own path. It's not just a carbon copy of the menu grind in FC. You log in, you get this penalty shot every day, for example. If you score it, you move on, almost like this little mini board game sort of thing. And if you miss, you still get an award, but you don't get to, get as big of an award. You don't advance in the little mini game. But little things like this are all throughout the game, and it even gets more and more detailed once you get into the players that you're going to build your team with. I mean, like, look at this. There's nothing like this in FC. Some would say, like, what is this? It looks like a little kid board game. Yes, I get what you're saying. At first glance, you could think that, but as you go further and further, it just has a certain appeal to it, right? And that's what's so cool about it. You have your little email or inbox, whatever you want to call it, so you go into that, and every day you get, whether it's notifications or certain rewards you get, right? You have a news part and an inbox part. The news part is more the announcements. The inbox are things like you see here: login bonuses, league rewards, and you can receive them all, or you can go through them and look exactly what you got. I typically just receive them all. Then before anything else, you're going to want to go into your settings and really explore. One thing you want to do before you get into any games is go into controller, into config 1, and then look at your advanced settings. This is because there's so much you can do customization wise to really make it a unique experience that feels good for you. Now, yes, they have this somewhat in other games, but eFootball definitely has the most immersive and the best way to make it the most unique feel for you that you like the best, right? Now, as I get more feel for how these settings work and get more detail with it, I will release a more, advanced video. For now, though, just for starters, I can go through my settings based on my research, right? This is settings that I got from others. And for the most part, we will just go through. I will explain a few things like manual pass level, which is just the assistance you get when you're passing. The higher you go, the less assistance you have. I'm currently experimenting between level 2 and level 3. Now, aside from the research part, you can also just read the description, and Konami does a great job of explaining these different settings. So you can go with what I'm going with, or you can choose to read these and test them all out and get the exact feel that you want. Take your time and really do this how you want to do it. Then when you go into games, you have the best experience. Now, for those of you who just want to play, you can absolutely just search settings and say, best settings for a casual, for instance, or best settings, for instance, for me, I want to climb. I want to be competitive in this game. That's how I am with not just any football game, but with anything. I'm a competitor at heart. That's why I love video games, and sports video games at that, and football video games at that. So I am going to go with the settings that are going to help me get to that point where eventually I can be competitive at the highest level that my skill set allows me to get to, right? As I improve, I want to be using settings that are pointing me in that direction. If you just want to be a casual player, of course, you can maybe do level 1 and just be fine with that. That's the beauty of it. There's something that fits for every player. And another thing these settings show is just how much detail Konami puts into this game, which you can see in areas across the entire game, right? I know that there are some parts of like the pay-to-play part that players are very upset with, and I understand. We're apparently seeing that with every single football game, as UFL literally sold their game on, fair to play and this and that, but it's turned out that it is just like any other football game. So I guess that's just a necessary evil if you want to be a football gamer right now. With that being said, the details in Konami's eFootball are definitely amazing. You cannot deny that. The next thing I want to get into is the training section, right? Also under settings. You can either choose your team or go with one of the authentic teams they have in the game. And then there are several different types of training you can choose, but for the start, I suggest going with free training because another very detail-oriented system is within this free training setup. You can go through all of these things, the basic controls, passing, crossing, shooting, feints, goalkeeping, all of it, and you can learn all of the different commands. Now, once you read them and really, see what they're about, then you go through and you can practice them as many times as you want. Then you move on to the next thing. Is this a lot to do in one sitting? Yes. But it's all about how much time you want to put into it. Do you have to do this? No. You can go in like I've done up to this point and pretty much just change your controls to that of, FC controls if you're coming from FC, or if you're just coming from UFL, which copied FC controls, you do the same thing and you can just go out and play. Now, when I did that, I had the fortunate assistance of Galfano Gaming, who is an eFootball extraordinaire and helped me a ton on my stream. He was actually telling me different, commands that aren't the basic commands that I wasn't aware of, and it helped a lot. So that was almost a training session in itself. But then I'm also going to take the time, right, and split this up because you can only take in so much information, right? Split this up until I've completed the entire free training where I've read through and practiced all of the commands, right? Because like I said, I want to truly be competitive in this game, and that's what I have to do. I have to learn these commands, see which ones are important to utilize in the game, see which other ones are just nice to have in my back pocket, right? For you, you don't have to do it, or you can do it to a certain extent. Just learn some of the commands you want. That's the beauty of it. Konami put all of this in the game, and you can choose how deep you dive into it. I personally will be diving all the way in, learning all of these, and then I will be providing you with the best way that I learned everything, for one, and also the most important commands that will help you find success within the game. Now, these next details are some of the coolest that make eFootball very unique, and that is the information within each player that you have on your team. Obviously, they have a lot of details for the tactics and the way you set up your team. I talked about that previously, the way you can put players in the specific positions you want them and truly make a unique setup from formation to player roles and everything else. But when you click into each player, there is a ton of information that affects how they will perform in game. And just like I said previously, Konami put so much detail in, and you can choose how deep you want to dive into this. If you just want to put the players out and play, so be it. But look at all this. I'll give you a few examples, but I will provide a more detailed video on each of these. The most important aspects of this, right? The way that I break down each player and boost each player and so on and so forth as I dive further into the game. But for now, for example, I could get, let's say Ribery was an 83 right now, and then I went into level training, okay? His level training is completed, but let's say it wasn't. He could go from, let's say, an 83 to a 94, and each player has a max amount of levels. So in that aspect, it's similar to UFL, just more detail. You can add different skill sets to players, right? You can boost each player. For example, Ribery, he has this technique booster and a striker's instinct booster. One of which, the technique booster, I added myself and could have chose from several different boosters, right? So you can make the player unique in that aspect. It is incredible. It goes on and on and on. You can add positions to each player. And then, as far as what they're good at in game, you can literally go through and see every player's abilities, right? How likely they are to use their weak foot, any boosters that they have, any additional information that can help you know exactly what that player is going to be like. So for example, let's look at Embuemo. You see here his attributes. Every player is going to have attributes in any game, so nothing special here, but you keep scrolling down, and first you see any boosters a player may or may not have. You see characteristics, so take a look at this detail. Non-dominant leg usage is rarely for Embuemo, but his non-dominant leg precision is high. No other game has that detail, okay? He has his form, his injury resistance, right? And then you go down and you can add additional skills, which we've seen previously how to do. Not every card allows you to add additional skills. So this one, for instance, on Embuemo does not. But every player is going to have skills that are essentially animations in game. For instance, some players may have the long-range curler like Embuemo or long-range shooting skill set. Others might have, like Embuemo, the outside curler. Each player will have their own set of skills, and that way you know in-game what they are capable of. Going down further, you see the AI playing styles. So when you're not controlling, for instance, Embuemo, he has a speeding bullet play style, the incisive run in the early crosser. You can read what each of those provides, and that way you know when you're not controlling the player what that player is capable of, the way they will play. It is similar to how you can't in eFootball go on manual runs, like send players away or call them to. You can't player lock or anything like that, but there's still skill in finding the player making the best run, whether it's a long ball, making a run for a long ball, or coming short, right? And the better you know each player, the better you'll know how they're going to perform in game, and the better you'll know how to utilize them when you are controlling them. It is awesome, and like I said, it's a unique experience. No other game is like that. eFootball has that to itself, which is great. You don't want football games to be the same, like I said in my previous video. So the beauty of eFootball is all of the detail that Konami added, and the fact that it is a skill-based game. It's just far different than, say, the skill set in FC, which I would say is more about manual usage of different players. Yes, AI absolutely matters, but there's a lot of manual control. In eFootball, it's more about purchasing the players or packing the players and putting them into your team based on matching your play style, knowing how to utilize those players best, right? And then, like for instance, in your build-up, knowing the type of runs these players are going to make ahead of time based on how they play, based on this information we just went through. That is awesome. For a soccer nerd like me, you cannot beat the detail. Once you add that in to all the detail and the tactics, right, the player roles, things like that, you can't beat it. Then you get out on the pitch and you really, really know your team. And as, say, things aren't working or you need to make changes, you can make changes to the players according to what you want, right? You study each player and see which players fit your team the best. It can never get old, especially as you continue building your team and continue looking for players that better fit and are better suited to your play style as you climb the ranks, right? Maybe in Division 5, a certain play style and certain players work out, but once you get to, let's say, Division 2, it's not working anymore. You need to change your game plan, or maybe just change certain players that don't play a certain way that you need. That is excellent. It creates a ton of different options in game. It makes a ton of unique opportunities when you can add all these different things to different players. That is excellent, right? Who can argue that that's not awesome? Now, again, if you just want to get players and play the game, you absolutely can do that too. Konami puts in the details and you decide how much you want to utilize those details. So, as I get better in each of these areas, I will provide to you the information that I find important, how I digest all this information and utilize it in game. But until then, go in and explore yourself. It's a ton of fun. Just looking at each player you have, looking at what they're good at, performing on the pitch, right? Going in and playing a game, and then seeing how a lot of these things tie together, seeing what's most important. I just wanted to make sure you weren't missing the beauty of all of this that Konami has added and the beauty of eFootball. I personally, like I said before, third time giving this game a go, and this is the first time I noticed any of this, right? Because I just didn't have my whole focus on learning the game. Now it is, and I cannot wait because there's so much to learn, right? Nothing's worse than liking a game and wanting to really dive into it, and there's just nothing to dive into. That is not the case with Konami's eFootball. So, download it, give it a try yourself. I gave you some tips on what to change. Definitely things like camera angle. Choose the best one, right? Settings on your controller, you need to change that. And then go in and have some fun with different tactics, right? Learning the different players, seeing what kind of players you want. Learning the menus altogether, the different objectives, challenges, things like that. It's really fun time, honestly. And then you get into the game, and eFootball is its own experience altogether, and it adds to it as well when you know how these players perform, in my opinion. So get out there, get to grinding, get to having some fun, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.